Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to yet another profound session of teachings from Shri Krishna, where he's going to go more deep into Karma Yoga and how that impacts our personal life, how that impacts people around us. So it's a very, very practical, very profound session. Today we are going to cover slokas 3.20 to 3.24. Hopefully you all have the slokas in front of you. So I'll now start playing.
कर्मणैव हि संसिद्धिम् आस्थिता जनकादयः लोकसङ्ग्रहमेवापि सम्पश्यन् कर्तुमर्हसि यद्यदाचरति श्रेष्ठस्तत्तदेवेतरो जनः स यत्प्रमाणम् कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तते न मे पार्थास्ति कर्तव्यम् त्रिषु लोकेषु किञ्चन नानवाप्तमवाप्तव्यम् वर्त एव च कर्मणि यदि ह्यहं न वर्तेयम् जातु कर्मण्यतन्द्रितः मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः उत्सीदेयुरिमे लोका न कुर्याम् कर्म चेदहम् संकरस्य च कर्ता स्यामुपहन्यामिमाः प्रजाः.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Four very practical, four very powerful slokas. So let us continue from where we left off. And there is a moment in every seeker's journey when the question is not just about whether spiritual life is real, because when we all begin, we make these bold statements, right? Statements like, we are not a material body seeking spirituality, you are actually a spiritual being. Correct? We speak all of that. So hopefully nobody is questioning at this point whether spiritual life is real or not. I think we are already overcome that part of the journey. Hopefully. Is somebody still having that doubt? Whether spirituality is real, whether okay, nobody seems to be doubtful. That is good. So now the questions become something more harder. What kind of questions? These are the kind of questions a lot of seekers have. The first question, how do I live this understanding in the middle of everything that life keeps asking of me? How do I pursue the spiritual path without retreating from my material duties? This is a very common question. Or how do I act in a world that pulls me from every direction? And how can I maintain my steadiness and calmness? Because one of the misunderstandings a lot of us have is we think spirituality means I'm done with life. I don't have any responsibilities, I don't have any tensions, I don't have any worries. Now I can sit and do spirituality, isn't it? A lot of people are of that opinion. Or conversely, whenever you ask some people, why are they not able to practice spirituality? Why are they not able to spend more time? They will always say, they will talk about, oh, but I have so many responsibilities. I have so many obligations. I have so much going on in my life. Some acharyas would say that, in fact, when you think your life is challenging, that is the time you should do more spirituality. Instead of... okay, so now Shri Krishna, he is giving Arjuna a teaching which is spiritual also, which is practical also, and it also is social. Well, let us see what we mean by that. So in slokas 3.20 and 3.21, Krishna is now talking about something very profound. So he is saying, indeed, through actions alone, Janaka and others attained perfection. How many of you know who Janaka is? Okay, so is there anybody who does not know who is Janaka, King Janaka? Okay, that means everybody knows. They have at least heard about it. You should also perform your duties considering only the welfare of the world. That way you can set an example for others to follow. Whatever the great and saintly people do, that becomes the standard that the world follows. Such a practical lesson here. So these two verses, they belong together. The first verse tells Arjuna that action, when it is rightly understood, it can itself become a means for perfection. It is not that I will wait to become perfect and then I will practice. No, Krishna says when you practice it the right way, with the right understanding, that will make you perfect. That will take you towards perfection. And the second shloka explains why such action matters, not just for your own growth, but also for those around you. See, that is why Krishna is not merely telling Arjuna to act, he is telling Arjuna to act in a way that upholds the world. And King Janaka is a very carefully chosen example. Now, maybe I will ask you a question. Can you name anybody in your life? I'm not talking about imaginary names from stories or scriptures, but real people who seemed to handle difficult situations calmly. You don't have to tell the name. You can just say who the role. Maybe it was a parent, a teacher, a grandparent, a neighbor. But have you had such people in your lives? Okay. Deepali ji is nodding. Kahan ji is nodding. Kahan, who was that person? What was the role?
He's actually my tech lead, and under very hard deadlines, he's just very calm and he doesn't waver, and that's quite astonishing to observe.
Awesome. And you feel inspired, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. One more. Anybody else wants to talk about some example that they have felt inspired in their life? Come on, I'm sure there are a lot of okay. Chitraji wants to say something. Yes, Chitraji?
You, Guruji?
Oh, very kind of you. Me. What part of me? What did you find inspiring?
We have known that you have been through changes in your jobs, changes even with your moving, even while traveling for work or anything. Our sessions have always continued. So yeah, so many reasons. I can go on and on.
Thank you. Very kind of you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, all credits to Shri Krishna's teachings. The best teacher on the planet. So as we saw two examples here, but what is important to note is that I never told, for example, I didn't tell Chitraji that, hey, look at what I am doing. And this is how you are supposed to do something, or this is how you are supposed to behave, or I didn't even tell her you have to look for inspiration from what I'm doing. Just like that, Kahan's tech lead never told Kahan that look at how I am doing things and learn from me, right? Kahan just observed. He's observing and he's saying it inspires me. Just like that, Chitra was just observing what I have been doing and she feels that it is inspiring. That is why Krishna is now trying to give an example. Krishna is not just talking theory. He's saying, I'll give you an example, Arjuna. Look at King Janaka. Because he's a very, very popular example. And a lot of scriptures talk about him. He was celebrated. He was the main reason people celebrate Janaka is because no matter what he was performing outside, internally he was always a Sitapragya. He was always calm. He was always composed. He always knew what the right thing to do was. And was Janaka like a sannyasi? Of course not. Janaka was a king, a great king, a powerful king of a vast kingdom, which means he had so many responsibilities, so many challenges, so many complicated decisions he had to take on a day-to-day basis. And he was so busy. Everybody was seeking his attention. His wives, his ministers, his citizens, his enemies. Everybody was seeking his attention. So is that not our life? In our life, we have so many priorities, competing priorities, so many people seeking our attention. They all need our time. So many challenges. But what happens? Many times we let it impact us deeply. Whereas Janaka did not let any of that impact him internally. Externally, you would look at Janaka, it will look like, oh, he's just another king. He's performing his duties so beautifully. But internally, he was a Vairagi and he was a complete Sthita Pragya. That is why Krishna is choosing Janaka as an example. Also because Janaka attained that kind of perfection only through such detached actions alone. He did not get enlightened and then become a king. His enlightenment happened while he was performing his duties. That's the beauty. And that is why Krishna is telling Arjuna, look at Janaka. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you don't think that you have to first become perfect, you have to first become, enlightened, and then you can perform duties the way I'm asking you to perform. Is that not what a lot of us feel? Guruji, ye bolne ko aasan hai. It is easy to say, but I'm not a saint. People say that. I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a saint. You cannot expect me to act like that. How can I do things without attachment? Don't we all have that question? So Krishna is saying it is not that you become perfect and then you act like this. Rather, you act like this and you become perfect. So, very, very important. And there is a text called Yoga Vashishta. We have spoken about it in the past also, where Yoga Vashishta also talks about how Janaka becomes such an example for everybody while he was performing duties as a king. No, it's not. Why are we repeating this? Because many times what we do, we postpone. We postpone our spiritual practices. We postpone our sadhana for some perfect time, for some perfect day. Okay, Shalmaliji is already laughing. So this is a very common human condition. This is where Krishna's teaching is very personal for all of us. We all have some assumptions. We will all say, oh, I will do spirituality later. Later when I have more time. Or later when my children are older. I've heard all these excuses, okay? Or later when my work is less demanding. Guruji, my work is so demanding. So I cannot focus on spirituality. Or later when, my family becomes more supportive. They don't understand. They don't support me. Blah, 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 so on and so forth. Or later when my mind feels more peaceful. Tell me something. You go to a doctor. The doctor says, oh, if you want to fix this problem, looks like you have a sprained muscle, and if you have to fix it, you are supposed to do these 2 or 3 stretching exercises. Some of you may have already gone through such a diagnosis. Now, what will you say if the patient says, oh doctor, I will do those stretches once I feel fine? And the doctor is, Arey Baba, I am asking you to do those stretches so that you become fine. But we don't get it. We are like, I will do those exercises once I feel fine. Now everybody is laughing because you understand how silly that is. But that's exactly what we do in life. All these spiritual things, we are like, we will do once we feel fine. And Krishna is laughing there saying, my dear, I'm asking you to do that so that you become fine. So that you start feeling fine. That's why you need to do it now. Does it make sense? Okay. How many of you are postponing? How many of you are postponing spiritual practices? Okay, Shalmaliji is postponing. Okay, so you are postponing. What is your reason, Shalmaliji?
Early morning, who will get up? Like, I want to do the everyday chanting, but I get up early. I do other things, but for chanting.
Got it. So you are waiting for what? Like, who do you think is going to make you get up?
Internal thinking. Internally, it will come. It will come. I know that, but it will come one day. One day, I'm waiting for that.
Okay. So Shalmaliji is still waiting for her to internally want to get up. Okay. That is a very cute, honest thing. Anybody else waiting for something? Nobody is waiting. Everybody is already completely doing yajna, nishkama karma. No. Okay, you don't have to tell me, but you tell yourself. Tell yourself, "No, this is what I seem to be waiting." And Krishna tells me that that waiting is not really the right way, because there is no waiting. We have to do it now. There should be a sense of urgency. So this example of King Janaka is again given for that, because Krishna is not theoretically saying. Krishna is saying, look at that king. You are telling me that you are more busy than that king? Are you telling me that you have more challenges than that king? Are you telling me that you have more worries than that king, who has to protect hundreds of thousands of his citizens? Are you telling me that? Hey, look, but he's not waiting. That is the point. So the message is, begin wherever you are. Don't wait for the world to become perfect. Start bringing clarity into the life that is already in front of you. Start performing your duty which is already given to you. When Krishna says you have to do yajna, don't say that I'm waiting for the right things to do for Krishna. When Krishna says offer your actions to me, somebody says, yes Guruji, I'm just waiting for the right actions that I can offer to Krishna. No, Krishna is not saying wait for the right actions. Krishna is saying whatever actions you do, like you have to get up, you have to catch the train, you have to talk to somebody. Even that he says start there and do it as a yajna. Possible or not possible is the question. So Krishna is adding another layer through the phrase. He uses the term loka sangraha. That is the term he has used in these verses, which literally means welfare of the world. Loka sangraha. And see, what Krishna says is very, very profound. It's very beautiful, powerful. He's saying that you have to look at your actions not just as something you're doing only for you. No, he says, no matter how small the action, when you do it, when you are performing it, it is having an impact on others. It is having an impact on the environment. It is having an impact on society. It is always having an impact that is not limited just to you. Is Krishna's message, which is very empowering. For example, Arjuna here, his choices, do you think whatever choices he makes is going to impact only him? How many of you think that his choices, whatever he chooses, is going to be only impacting him personally? Of course not. He's a prince. He's a strong warrior. No, his actions are impacting not just him, it's impacting his brothers, it's impacting the Pandavas, it's impacting everybody who is fighting on the side of the Pandavas, it is impacting his kingdom, it is impacting, all the citizens who are facing the potential of adharma, right? So you see, that is the message Krishna is giving to him. He's saying, if you abandon your duties just because you think you have this grief and you think you have this moral confusion, it is not just going to impact you, Arjuna. What is the greatest danger? Can anybody tell me what do you think Krishna is telling him? It is not going to just impact you, Arjuna. What do you think is the greatest danger Krishna is talking about here? Okay, Sulataji.
Because he will be leading by example, and the society will follow him, and they will be under degradation.
Yes, because Arjuna is in such a position that any decision that he takes, it is not just him which is being impacted. Of course, there is a direct impact on a lot of people, but more than that, there is an indirect impact. What is the indirect impact? People are watching him. And now they are going to follow his example. Like for example, Kahanji said his tech lead handles stressful situations calmly. Knowingly or unknowingly, no, that is something that Kahan is going to follow when eventually he becomes a tech lead. Let us assume that his tech lead was, on the contrary, very hot-tempered and getting nervous and making mistakes. Then somewhere Kahan, knowingly or unknowingly, is looking at that example, and somewhere he is going to normalize it. Somewhere unknowingly or knowingly, his mind is going to tell him that it's okay. If you are a tech lead, it's okay to be like that. Because my tech lead was like that. See, so many people you see, they will justify their bad behavior based on how their parents behaved. And they will play the victim. What can I do? My father was like this. My father abandoned us. My mother abandoned us. My brother did like this. What should I do? You see, this is a very common excuse, right? But what is the message behind that? They are partly true. Because what your father did not impact just him or his partner. It impacted the kids who are observing him. A very powerful lesson. So the message here is how you live your life. It is teaching others whether you intended or not. You may not want your sister or your brother or your son or your daughter to follow the bad examples you are setting. That is not your intention, but doesn't matter what you intend, that's what's going to happen. So that is where Krishna talks about 3.21, where he says, people follow what they see, not just what they hear. They may admire ideas, but they imitate your conduct. They may appreciate teachings, but they follow examples. This is true for individuals, it is true for families, it is true for institutions, it is true for so many different things at so many different levels. For example, a child is watching how the adult in their home is responding to frustration. See, children, in my own family, this happened that there was a marriage that we had all gone to attend. I was myself a young boy, and one of my distant relatives, they had a small child, and so something happened, and in front of everybody, the father was scolding the child, saying, I told you always to be truthful. And without thinking, spontaneously the child says, but you lied the other day. See, it's not that the child is doing a tit for tat, or it's not that the child is being disrespectful. It's a child, and this is a human mindset. The human mindset is, we observe. And for us, what the other person is doing is more important than what they are saying. That is why we say, if you want to grow in spirituality, you need to be genuine. You need to align your thoughts and words and your actions. Very important. So just like that, like today you are all sitting here and listening to me preach. What I'm saying is, of course, I'm just a parrot. I'm repeating what Krishna is saying. So that works in my advantage. But all said and done, like Chitraji spoke kindly. She said, no matter, Guruji, what your situation is, no matter what your life situation has been, you have still been consistent. So she has been observing, right? But what if I was not consistent? She would have observed that also. And then in the next class, if I sit and preach, you have to be consistent, that thought will come in her mind. Oh, this guy keeps saying consistent, but he's never consistent. Does it not happen? So this is a very powerful message that Krishna is giving, which is useful and helpful for all of us. In South, today Lakshmiji is not there, but in the South we have a saying that says, if the parents are sitting in the pub drinking, you can't expect the child to be in the temple praying. So it's a very, very strong message for all of us. That is why this teaching is so important. What I want to ask is, has there been anything in your life, any values or any lessons that you have learned by observing somebody who you look up to? By observing, like maybe your parent or your brother, sister, teacher, boss, whatever. Is there something that you have actually learned? It could be positive or negative. It doesn't matter. Is there something that anything comes to anybody's mind that you would like to share quickly? Okay, Deepaji wants to share something.
So it's my yoga teacher. In fact, I've been during COVID times. I've been practicing yoga, but I needed to go to the next level. I was searching for the right teacher, and I saw a video of hers on Facebook, and I had that instant connect. She's my teacher. Of course, she's very inspiring. She's the next level. So she really inspires me. I mean, in terms of like, because of her, the level that she's reached. So I really look up to her, and she keeps inspiring me. And throughout like 4 5 years, we haven't met, only through Zoom. I've learned from her. That's this thing.
Very nice. Excellent. Thank you so much. So the message is, knowingly or unknowingly, how others behave, how others actually act, has a big impact on us. So there is a study that has happened which says that our beliefs, more than 80% of it is based on what we have observed, and maybe 20% is based on what we have heard, like teachings, lessons. Like no matter how much you hear, the majority impact is what you actually observe. Like your own seniors can, say 100 things, but you are observing how they themselves are acting, and that makes a bigger impact. Simranji, you want to say something?
Guruji, for this best example I am getting in my mind is that when they were in school, kids, like I was hearing someone saying that, okay, this kid is suspended because he hit the another child, and then he got suspended for a week. But the teacher was explaining the parent that definitely someone he has seen doing, that's why he's learned, and then he's doing that to someone else. So that's why look where he's learning that from, home or wherever.
Exactly. Very nice. Exactly. You're so right. No, you're absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that. No, of course, Krishna's teaching may seem very effective, but it's also compassionate. Because Krishna is not just disregarding the suffering that Arjuna is going through. Krishna is just saying, don't let that suffering cloud your judgment. Don't let that suffering impact you in such a way that you stop using your viveka, that you stop using your intellect. That is the whole question, because only when you are facing a challenge do you have to really be more mindful, isn't it? And he's opening Arjuna's eyes. He's not condemning him. He's not saying, you are immoral, you are unethical, how can you run away? That's not what he's saying. He's saying, Arjuna, you need to realize that how you react is going to have such a big impact on so many people. So he is empowering Arjuna to think clearly based on the impact of his actions. It's very, very important, because what happens? Usually it is our ego. Our ego always prevents us from doing the right thing. Why? Because it is always, what do I feel? What do I prefer? What do I get? Isn't it? In any situation, the first prominent thing is I. But dharma, if you have to align with dharma, what is Krishna's teaching? Krishna is saying, change that narrative. He's saying, instead, ask, what is right here? What is the right thing to do? Instead of asking, what will make me feel good? Ask, what is the right thing to do here? Ask, what is required of me? Like, what is my swadharma? What helps the bigger good? What sets the right example? These are the questions you have to note down. And these are the questions we all have to ask whenever we are faced with a decision that we are supposed to take. So King Janaka embodies all of this. And that is why he is given as an example. Not because King Janaka was some scholar or some great saint, but because he embodies this whole thing. No matter what the situation, no matter what the challenge, King Janaka would pause. He will always do what is right in that situation. He will always do what is, for the welfare of the larger population. He will never give into this egocentric, how does it help me? What is in it for me? That's never his approach. So all Krishna is saying is that approach, that path is the path to perfection. So this is where Krishna's teaching becomes very practical for us today, because in one of the previous sessions, somebody raised their hands right around this teaching and they said, Guruji, but I'm not Janaka, na? I'm not a king. So how does it apply? So of course, we are not kings, but we are still examples to someone, right? Krishna is not talking about something that applies to a king. Krishna is talking about something that applies to each one of us, because we are all examples to somebody. None of us lives in a vacuum. Correct? That is the whole message. See, some wise person very beautifully said, he said, you may not mean much to the world, but you may mean the world to some. And that is a very profound, powerful message. And that is what Krishna is alluding to here. Like a parent is a great example. The parent may mean the world to the child, isn't it? Or a teacher, or a guru, and so on and so forth. So the question Krishna is raising is not only whether you are doing your duty, but it is also what kind of a world are you helping create by doing whatever you are doing. It's a very introspective, very deep thing that we all have to think. It could be simple, like simple things like you are supposed to get up and you are supposed to go maybe exercise, or you are supposed to get up and take the medicine your doctor told you are supposed to take. There are a million things that you are supposed to do. And then you are like, oh, chodo yaar, it's okay, just forget it. Let me just laser on, It may feel very innocent, it may feel harmless. You will say, oh, who is it harming? But you don't realize that that child there is watching you. And that is what is getting registered in the child's mind. Or let us say you are facing a challenging situation and you break down. Or you start becoming extremely, irritated and angry, and for everything you have an excuse. You may think you are the victim, but you don't understand that you are now creating impressions on the mind of somebody else who is watching you. Whether you intended or not, you are teaching the wrong lessons to somebody. And this is a very powerful lesson given by Krishna here. So that is why he says, when you change the mindset of how you act, it impacts not just you, but it impacts a larger ecosystem. And this is the whole concept of yajna. This is what we were trying to discuss in the previous slokas, where Krishna spoke about reciprocity. Reciprocity doesn't just mean, I give something to you and you give something back to me. Reciprocity basically means what you do has an impact on something larger than you. And you are supposed to be mindful of that, you are supposed to be aware of that. Again, instead of just asking, how is this particular thing impacting me? How is it going to benefit me? Krishna is saying, ask different set of questions. Ask, how is it aligned with dharma? Or how is it setting the right example for people to follow? So on and so forth. These are not small questions. These are big questions in a way, because they have to be lived. This is not just theory. And this is just what Krishna is asking Arjuna to do. He's saying, Arjuna, you have to see that rightful action will serve at least two sacred purposes at once. First, it will purify you, because rightful action is always purifying. And second, it is going to have a positive impact on the world around you. So added bonus, added incentive for us to now do rightful actions. Because it is not just so that we get purified and we get evolved. It is so that the world around us now gets better. That is yajna in the true sense. That's the beauty of these verses, where Krishna is restoring dignity to duty. And in 3.22 to 24, he is taking the teaching to another profound level, Because why? We said that Krishna is talking about example. He wants to show Arjuna examples, and he started by showing the example of King Janaka. Now he does something more profound. He now starts showing the example of himself. He's saying, okay, Arjuna, now look at me. There is no duty for me in all the three worlds. Nothing that I have to do. Yet, I engage in rightful action. There is nothing that I need. There is nothing that I need to gain. Isn't he Sarvaloko Maheshwara to start with? And yet, I am engaging in rightful action. Isn't that right? He says, if I did not engage in rightful actions, oh Partha, the next part is very powerful. He says, if I do not engage in rightful actions, humans will follow my path. So I will be negatively impacting all of humanity just by setting a bad example, right? Very extraordinary. Very, very extraordinary. Now here is where, now I want to again come back to something we learned recently, that most human actions, most of the actions that we do, if you introspect honestly, you will realize that they're all coming from a sense of insufficiency. They're all coming from a position of scarcity mindset. Why, if I have to make it more practical? You act because maybe you're going to get more money. But it is because you think you have less money, right? You put it in a way that sounds good. You will say, oh, if I work hard, I will make more money. That is your ego talking. What is really happening there? Your mind is saying you have less money. The scarcity mindset. Just like that, you want more recognition, you want more security, you want more pleasure, you want more power, you have more success, you have more control. Anytime you can answer, if somebody asks you any action you are performing and they're asking you why, and anytime your response is because you think it is going to give you something, you should know that that is from a position of scarcity mindset. Because what if you already had that thing? Then wouldn't you act? Is the big question. See how that works. So Krishna says, instead you need to act from a position of fullness, Arjuna. Don't act from a position of scarcity, because that is what is going to prevent you from doing what is right. But when you act from a position of fullness and clarity, then doing right will naturally come to you. Powerful? That, he says, at the deepest level is Karma Yoga. This Karma Yoga is participating in actions without a sense of lack. That is, now when you go back now to 2.47, now suddenly it will reveal more meanings. When Krishna says, do your duty without attachment to outcomes, he's saying don't be in that scarcity mindset. Because how can you do yajna when you are in a scarcity mindset? How can you give anything if you all the time you are thinking you don't have this, you don't have that, I don't have money, I don't have love, I don't have relationships, I don't have. You see the message? This is the purest form of Karma Yoga, he's saying, where you are acting not for your own ego, not for your own self-completion, but you are acting out of fullness. You are acting out of alignment because that is the right thing to do. And you are acting because it is going to contribute to the overall betterment of the world. So that is what yajna is all about. And that is what Krishna is asking us to do. That is the true meaning of Nishkama Karma. So take down this Upanishad, Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8, and you can read it yourself later on. So I will not explain that. You read it, and if you have a question, please let me know. Now in 3.22 to 3.24, Krishna is revealing that his own actions have been participating. His own actions have been such that he is explaining Arjuna. Look at Krishna's life. Krishna's own life, isn't it an example? He was not just talking about rightful action. He lived it. Didn't he? As a child, he was in Vraja, he filled Vraja with sweetness, with joy. But even in those days, his presence was like a shelter for everybody around him. He lifted the Govardhana hill when he was a child, isn't it? The same boy who stole butter was also guarding everybody around him. And through him, people got freedom from fear. Isn't it? And he gave an opportunity for people to experience love. True love, profound love, fearless love. And when he grew, that sweetness ripened more into rightfulness, responsibility. When he had to leave Vrindavana, he left. Was he clinging? He was not clinging. Was he saying, oh, I cannot, how can I live without that butter? When he had butter, he made the most of it. When he had to move away from butter, he just did it. Because that was the right thing to do. And he walked into hard demands of life because Dharma was calling him there. When he was in Mathura, he faced the tyranny of Kamsa. He showed that compassion is not weakness. It's not just that he will play the basuri and, lure all these beautiful gopis. That doesn't mean he's weak. And he wanted to show that love also knows how to be strong, how to confront darkness. Whenever darkness comes into life, you can confront it with love as well. Because later in Dwaraka, Krishna was in the middle of the kings. Krishna was like another Janaka, right? He had his kingly duties, he had politics, he had family crisis. Look at his life. One crisis after another. But he was always smiling. He was always calm. He was always steady-minded. The example, he was leading by example, isn't it? He lived life fully no matter what phase of life he was in. No matter what his circumstances were. When gopis were around him, he was dancing. When the tyrant was around him, he was fighting. When, political people were around him, he was counseling. And when Arjuna was around him, he was actively coaching. He became his Sarathi. Isn't it? So he is leading by example. His entire life is like that. And on the battlefield, what happened? His words became Bhagavad Gita. Was it just because suddenly in the battlefield he had gyan that he gave people? No, because in the battlefield he already had proven, he had already set the example. People are already looking up to him. And so what he said became accepted, revered. Would we all have given so much importance to the Bhagavad Gita if it was given by Shakuni? That is the whole point. Today we are all appreciating the Bhagavad Gita and we are all enjoying it because it was given by Krishna. Krishna who has himself set the right examples, who has led by example, who has lived life the way he is teaching us to live. And that's the beauty. So live fully, love deeply, stand for Dharma, and let your actions become an offering such that it makes a larger impact on the larger ecosystem around you. That is a very powerful message. Maybe you can take 5 seconds to introspect what we just spoke and if it is making sense. So of all the phases of Shri Krishna's life, which phase appeals to you the most? You're all thinking so much. Either all the phases appeal or none of them appeal. Okay. Somyaji?
The Vrindavan phase, like where he was very actively participating and then enjoying. I don't know if he was enjoying or not, but like that gives a lot of positivity. Like the system of Holi and all of other stuff. Like maybe he was teaching us the impermanence of life even through the colors of Holi. I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, I really enjoy that phase. Like it's a very blossoming, like I don't know, like how to explain it. It's like very kind, very, very similar to Vishnu itself, like proliferation, blossoming of life, and then stuff like that.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. By the way, I think one of the other narratives is Holi was something that happened. Prahalada is given credit as well, because when they tricked him to sit in that pyre of fire, but he escaped unhurt. After that, they celebrated Holi. But doesn't matter. Anybody else? Any other face of Krishna? Okay, Deepaji wants to say something.
The childhood phase when he's naughty, but at the same time he's very protective.
Everybody likes the Vrindavana face. Everybody likes
the friendship that he displays through Sudama. I just love that. Whenever I hear that, I just love it. And because of that, I've started liking Poha even more.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, Shalmali ji, you want to say something?
The relationship between Arjuna and Krishna. Oh my goodness, that blown my mind, and because of that, I feel that there is a connection.
Okay, very nice. See, now you have all. Okay, Poonam ji wants to add something.
Yes, Hare Krishna Guruji. I also liked Krishna's during Mahabharata, when he was giving, when his student was not confident, so he helped him to come out of it, teach him a lesson properly, and he did not say that you do this. He just told now what you have to do. He showed the path, and that's the best part I like. The teacher is always the person who shows the path to the child, not scolding him, okay, why you're not listening, you have to do this. Why you have to do this? And that's what I love.
Thank you so much. This is beautiful. So all of you have looked at some aspect of Krishna. See, this is what Krishna is telling, and it is evident. All of you have observed, and all of you are learning something based on your observation now. Isn't it? And that is the whole point. That is what Krishna is teaching in these slokas. So for Arjuna, this is a very important turning point, because till that point he was under the illusion that rightful action means he doesn't have suffering, he doesn't have confusion, and when there is confusion, when there is fear, when there is suffering, he thinks he will just run away. So that's the turning point where Krishna is showing him that this is the place for you to practice rightful action, and why. And so in 3.23, Krishna uses the term Mama Vartama Anuvartante Manushyaha. Very crucial. That is where he says human beings follow the path showed by the one that they regard as high. So if they regard Arjuna as something high, something like a great personality, then definitely they are going to follow his example. It's not just a metaphysical thing, it is very psychological. It is also a social point, because human beings by nature, they are imitators, isn't it? In the childhood, how many of you have read the story of a guy the bunch of monkeys sitting on a tree, and this guy, he's selling caps, and they have all taken his cap, and you remember that story, right? So at the end of the day, all he does is he takes off his cap, throws it on the ground, and all the monkeys imitate. There is a very powerful message hidden there. The powerful message is that is human nature. Human nature is humans are imitators. Knowingly or unknowingly, we imitate. We will imitate the style. We will imitate. For example, there is a joke in our circle. The joke says that especially Indians, when they visit USA, within like 3 to 4 months, they will develop such a strong accent. So much so that you can understand the native, the locals, but it is harder to understand the Indian, because they have already, developed such a strong. But I'm saying it jokingly, but the point is, does anybody teach you an accent? Nobody teaches you accent. You imitate. That is the whole message. Like that, a lot of things we imitate, and we have to keep that in mind. Be very careful, because somebody is going to try and imitate. So if you do something right, if you do something noble, and then somebody imitates, isn't that a good thing? Have you not contributed towards the world being a better place directly or indirectly? And vice versa. If people see you cheat, if they see you break down, if they see you do all negative things, somebody is imitating that also. So have you not knowingly or unknowingly contributed to the worsening of the world? This is the whole powerful message, empowering message. And then in 3.24, Krishna goes a little bit further. He says, "Oh Arjuna, if I stop performing my duties, then all these worlds will perish." Not just that, he says, and then I will be responsible for that chaos. See how the words he's using. Utsidayur means collapse, decay, disintegration. He says disorder will spread. And then he uses a very unique term, Shankarasya cha kartashyam. Some people, they misinterpret this. So although the word uses Shankara, he is not talking about Shiva. So Shankarasya cha kartashyam here just means, Shankara here refers to confusion and breakdown in order and leading to like a uncultured population and so on and so forth. So Krishna is talking about all the bad things that will happen if he just stops doing his rightful actions. Very powerful. He's saying because now everybody will follow and they will all stop doing rightful actions. And when the humanity stops doing what is right, there is going to be chaos. There is going to be all of these things happening. How it all happened? Did somebody have to use force or destroy? They just had to do something wrong which everybody followed. You see the power there. That is what you have to always internalize. The next action that you're going to perform, the next decision you're going to take, this perspective has to be accounted for. And that will automatically make your actions pure. That will definitely help you progress very quickly. And it will also help you perform yajna the right way and make the world around you a better place. See how powerful you are. Krishna is putting all the power in your hands. So this is why, Dharma survives only when it is practiced. Dharma survives only when it is actually lived that way. And that is the reason why in Sanatana Dharma, there is so much importance given to the Guru. There is so much importance given to the elders. There is so much importance given to the saints. Why? Because they carry a tremendous responsibility. See, if just any ordinary person you pass by on the road, if they do something immoral, yeah, it may impact you a little bit. But if somebody you look up to, somebody elder who you are looking up to, if they do something immoral, the impact is a lot more damaging. And if you see your guru performing something immoral, the damage is a lot more. So it is a big responsibility on the guru. Well, a guru is a strong word. Even a teacher. The teacher has a very big burden on their shoulders. They have a responsibility. If the teacher themselves cheat, it's a tremendous impact on the students. They are creating a whole generation of cheats. It's very, very important to keep in mind. That is why in Sanatana Dharma, we give so much respect to these people, because these people are carrying that burden. They are carrying that responsibility. And when they do it right, we give them all that respect. So again, I come back to what we said earlier, that action born out of need, it is just bargaining. It is just like a merchant. You are just being a merchant, that's all. But action born out of fullness, that is grace. Now, that has to be where we should be. And then Shri Krishna continues, he's saying, don't act because you want to get something for yourself, but act because it is the right thing to do, and act because it is going to impact the world around you, and act because that matters to you. Act because the world becoming a better place matters to you. Does it matter now? It probably doesn't even, the thought doesn't cross. But now that you know Ask yourself, does it matter to me that whatever I do is going to impact the world around me? And now act with that perspective is the whole message here. This is where the commentary is coming very close to our daily life, because a parent who continues to care faithfully for a child, even when they are exhausted, is having a great impact on the child. The child learns. There is just a couple of days ago, I read somewhere, I forgot who the author was. Sorry. If I remember, I will share in the group later. But I remember what the author said. He said that a person, does not treat his wife the way he treats his mother. They say the person treats his wife the way his father treated his mother. That is true for a lot of us, because knowingly or unknowingly, we have just observed. There was some other place I read which said, the best thing you can do to your children is by treating your wife nicely, treat her well, treat her with respect. And at the time, it didn't really make much sense to me that a person treating his wife with respect, why would it have such a great impact on the kids? Mujhe samajh mein nahi aaya. But it took a lot of time, and then once I started reading Krishna's teachings and all, then it was aha moment for me. So Krishna's teachings, they are actually very relevant to our day-to-day lives. No, it's not some obtuse philosophy. Just like that, a teacher who is always carefully preparing for what they are presenting to the students is participating in this principle. So on and so forth. So do not think that freedom means withdrawing from the field. That is one of the first messages Krishna is giving. I hope now it is making more sense. Now we are all agreeing that true freedom doesn't come from escaping. True freedom doesn't come from withdrawing. It comes from participating. And don't think that transcendence basically means you become unavailable to life. Transcendence just means you become more available, more fully available. And don't think that spirituality means it gives you a license to not care. That is a very wrong understanding of spirituality. Spirituality actually means you deeply care. And you deeply care because you have no fear. You have no fear because it's not your ego who is in control. If there is nothing to lose, where is fear coming from? So very powerful messages. I hope all this is making sense, and that is the beauty. Beauty of 3.22 to 24 is it reveals a God who has nothing to gain, and still he is engaging so intimately in our lives. A God whose perfection is not making him indifferent. We always say, the God is perfect. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Our own lives, the moment we become even a little bit financially independent, we stop caring for everybody else around, right? Because you don't feel the need. Usually people who are financially better, they turn out to be, they isolate themselves because they don't feel the need for anybody. And that is not a real spiritual progress. Because that is not Krishna. Krishna is so intimately present. He is so intimately a part of our lives, although he doesn't need anything from us. Once we can see that, once we can internalize that, then the path becomes clear. And Krishna is telling Arjuna to see this. And once he sees this, now Arjuna is beginning to understand that true freedom for him, now he is finally understanding, my true freedom will not come just by escaping. Finally he gets it. Now look at what kind of a powerful teacher Krishna is. Is it easy? Is it easy to convince somebody in the middle of a battlefield? It is easy to talk about philosophy when you are comfortably seated in your sofa. AC on, eh? When you are in the midst of danger, when you are in the midst of stress, at that time, for somebody to make sense to you and make you change your way of thinking, that only a Krishna can do. And also, you have to keep introspecting on this word, Loka Sangraha. Loka Sangraha should probably be a key word whenever you want to practice Nishkama Karma. So maybe you take it down, Loka Sangraha, and whenever you find the time, write a paragraph or two on what you understand and how you think you can contribute to Loka Sangraha. That itself will be a purifying exercise. So just like that, if you want a more real life example, consider a relationship which has become stale, a relationship which has become toxic. What actually happens if you try to dissect it? Basically, two people who once connected with a lot of warmth and love have now become indifferent to each other. Isn't it? That is pretty much what it means when we say a relationship is collapsed. That means, see, there was no relationship if you didn't have any love at all, but you had. That is why a relationship formed. And now it is not there because now from love, care, it has become indifference, if not hatred, right? And the partner may be, very rare that in a relationship both are equally contributing. It's very rare. Usually in a relationship, one person always feels like they have done more or they have contributed more. So then what happens? Now they create a narrative in their mind on how they have done more, how they have done so much. That bookkeeping we spoke about 2 sessions earlier, where we start maintaining a bookkeeping in our mind. There is a credit and debit. What I have done, what I have received. And somewhere we get into this is the ego talking, this is ahankara. And usually the person who thinks that they have done more is the person usually who will talk about, oh, I think this relationship is not working anymore. It will never be the person who thinks they have done lesser. It will always be the person who thinks they have done more in the relationship. They will be the first person to talk about, oh, the relationship is not working. Now, if you can now look at this from the lens of what we have learned so far, you will understand that this is the scarcity mindset again. See, if you say that somebody has to do something in return, that means you are in need, na? वो scarcity mindset आपका है कि उसका है? If you are getting upset that I need something and this person is not giving me, who is in the scarcity mindset? ये सोचना बहुत जरूरी है. This has to be thought from a position of strength and from a position of honesty. ये introspect करना बहुत जरूरी है. Because what is happening is every inconvenience, every little setback, now we treat it as a personal insult. Why? Because now that trust has broken down, that scarcity mindset has kicked in. What is insult? If you look at the anatomy of an insult means something that is impacting my dignity. That means somewhere I feel my dignity is gone. वो किसका गलती है? Like whose scarcity mindset is that? Can you ever be insulted if you never feel like you lack dignity? How can anybody else take your dignity away from you? So it's not easy to kind of internalize, but also I want to clarify that Loka Sangraha in this context does not mean that you have to stay in a relationship that is genuinely harmful. That is not what the message is here. The message just says that are you willing to honestly examine whether the withdrawal is a response to real incompatibility, or is it just the ego's refusal to acknowledge what is real? That is the only question that Krishna wants us to think of. Whatever we are feeling, is it based on our ahankara and our ego, or is it real? If it is real, by all means, use your viveka, use your discrimination. If you are in an abusive relationship, if somebody is, physically hurting you, harming you, walk away by all means. But we are talking about the majority of the cases where in a relationship, there is always this ego battles going on. And that is where this term Loka Sangraha, if you can introspect and if you can maybe write a couple of paragraphs, you may, maybe able to reimagine your relationship with people around you. But this requires a lot of honesty. This requires lack of ego. So it's not easy. You may have to keep revisiting and keep internalizing that. The mindset. Because what happens is, the moment, this is usually the narrative. The narrative is, the moment we get into a relationship, instead of it making us feel more empowered, it many times makes us feel more insecure. Because suddenly now you are afraid of losing. And suddenly you become more possessive. And then the question is, but when you were hardly friends, that insecurity didn't come. Right? The insecurity came once the relationship became stronger. And that is the mechanism we need to introspect. And then we will realize that it is actually the scarcity mindset that kicked in. It is actually the ego. We started playing all these, counterproductive games with our mind. But that needs to be introspected. And here, of course, we are talking about personal close relationships, but this applies also to our social relationships in general. Friend, best friend, ex-best friend, ex best friends. We have to introspect all of that with this lens. And then you will see that whenever, darar bolte hain Hindi mein, whenever there was a crack started appearing, there was always a scarcity mindset behind that, which kind of encouraged that gap to widen. And we have to just introspect that. Why we are talking about all of that? Because, first of all, how we react, how we handle our relationship impacts people who are observing us. So we may be creating an entire population of, bad people who are bad with relationships without even knowing you are responsible. And vice versa. Okay. And secondly, it is not just about your relationship with your boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. It is also about, that is how your relationship with God is also going to evolve. This is why in the Bhakti Sutra also Naradji says, never get into that mindset of what you are going to get back, because that way no relationship can thrive. It's a fact. It's not a philosophy. So if we don't introspect, if we don't take care of that, our relationship with God becomes the same. Isn't that the most commonly used term? God, where were you? Where are you? Where were you? God ko, why do we make God our personal assistant? Na? Because Krishna is saying, I am giving you the power, I am giving you tools, I am giving you the user manual. And he's saying, have you read it? Have you followed it? Before you blame me. That's exactly what happened even when, so if God willing, if Krishna's grace is upon us, we should study the Bhagavad Gita. It will be really powerful, because there many of these questions comes. For example, Uddhava will go and ask Krishna, why did you wait till Draupadi screamed for help? Everybody praises you that you went and helped Draupadi, but I have this question that you didn't just help Draupadi, you waited till she screamed. Why? And then Krishna will very beautifully, categorically, peel the onion. And eventually Uddhava will understand. For example, he will say, why did Draupadi not think of me when she was arguing with those people in the court? I mean, of course, he goes a lot more deeper, a lot more back in time, but he says, even then, instead of spending all that time arguing with Bhishma, arguing with Dronacharya, she was trying to make sense, she was trying to talk about, even at that time, she could have just said, Krishna, come help me. So the point is, Krishna is not saying that we all have to be perfect. Krishna is just saying that we all have to be genuine. We all have to be humble. We all have to be willing to introspect. And then we will ourselves know where the trouble starts. And then we will realize that we are actually empowered to make choices that either take us this way or it takes us the other way. It's a very empowering message actually. So that is why they say that when can you say, or if you want a relationship to thrive, Krishna is saying, learn renunciation. Like he said, learn renunciation in action learn renunciation in relationships. What does that mean? Let love breathe, yaar. I love a bird doesn't mean you start catching it tightly, putting it in your pocket and all the time keeping the pocket zipped up because it's my bird. There's this story of this one guy who really loved a bird, and he was a prince, and he loved how the bird sounded. Very beautifully the bird would sing every day, and he was in love with that bird. So he tells his ministers, go catch that bird for me. And he puts it in a cage. And it's a golden cage fitted with gems and diamonds and all of that. But after a week or so, the bird stops singing, and he's getting all upset. He's like, what happened? I've given this bird the most expensive cage in the kingdom, and it no longer sings for me. You see the problem? He didn't fall in love with a bird in a cage, not to start with. He loved a bird because it was free. It was singing because it was free. And you took away that freedom. Now, of course, it is no longer the bird that sings. And now you are saying, I no longer love the bird because the bird has changed. Of course, the bird changed. The bird changed because you changed. Your relationship changed. Instead of becoming just an enjoyer, you became a person who became possessive. You wanted to possess it. So let love breathe. Let it flow without getting into this ownership. We own somebody, correct? If somebody says they love you and you love them, that means you own them now. That mindset has to change. And service has to come without any hidden agenda. Now I'm talking about relationship, but this is applicable in general to how we live our life. That is why Krishna says, any action that we do should be without the sense of ownership, sense of doership, in general. And see how it applies to relationships is what I'm talking about here. And then once the maturity comes, there will be more room for the other person to exist the way they are. Why should you let people be the way they are? Because that is the person you loved. Somebody is saying, just open the cage here and let the bird be what it is, and you feel very uncomfortable. You are asking, but I love the bird. But then the real answer is, you have to do that because that is the bird you loved. If you want the love to come back, let the bird free. Let it be the bird that you loved. Let it free. So, we should learn to accept and love people the way they are instead of how we want them to be. That is the biggest blunder we make in relationships. It's kind of such a profound teaching because, someone is, whatever you are doing today, someone is drawing courage from the way you act, from the way you respond. You are inspiring somebody. Somebody is learning how, by looking at you, somebody is trying to make up their own assumptions on how to handle pressure, how to handle disappointment. So be aware. A child may be watching, a friend may be watching, a colleague may be watching. You never know who is watching. What is the most profound message here? The most profound message is, your own higher self is watching. Your own higher self is watching. How you are evolving, what decisions you are making, what actions you are taking. Do you want to make it sad or do you want to make it feel more empowered and take you higher is the question here. So that is why these verses are so relevant, they're so beautiful. And Krishna is reminding that your actions are never your own. That is why you cannot have attachment to the outcome. Now you see why it makes more sense. If you don't even know who is watching and what repercussions are happening, how can you be so sure about the outcome? So we are always adding something to the world. It's your choice whether you want to add something positive or whether you want to add something negative. You are empowered and you have the freedom to do that. The choice is ours. That is Loka Sangraha in a nutshell, and that is the spirit of Janaka, and that is Krishna's loving call to Arjuna. So with all love and all compassion, like this he explains to Arjuna, and now Arjuna totally gets it. Now Arjuna understands that, if now I run away, if now I abandon my duties, it's not just me who is going to fail. It's going to have such a big impact on so many people. I never thought about that. So now he's getting inspired. He's not getting intimidated. Krishna does not hold his ears and says, "How dare you run?" He inspires him. He gives him the right knowledge. That is the beauty of this teaching. So with that, I can stop talking. Hare Krishna. In the next session, we will go a little more deeper into these aspects. I think I will have time for just one question or one comment. I will have to wrap it up. Okay, Soumyaji.
Guruji, would it be right to say that any action that we do should come from the sense of accountability rather than ownership or doership?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Accountability in the sense you have to do what is aligned with dharma. You have to do what is right. And you have to do what is for the betterment of the larger. We always say for the larger good.
Loka
Sangraha. And then, yes, that is the right answer. So thank you all. Hare Krishna. Truly grateful to each one of you. You may think that Guruji is doing a great job sitting and teaching, but honestly, you are all doing a great job by sitting and listening. Because you inspire me more than I would have ever inspired you. So that's why I am extremely grateful to each one of you, especially those who participate, those who show up, those who interact. I am extremely grateful to you. So you are already contributing Loka Sangraha. So thank you so much. So see you all in the next session. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.